Ritu Didi and Vivek Dada experienced a very young mama. We'd love to hear from you.
By the way, the kurta I'm wearing probably looks familiar in one of the photos which you had just put up. So this is a hand-me-down from Mama. So this talks about generosity. During one of my last few trips to Delhi, उन्होंने ये बड़ा खुशी से मेरे को दिया.
मेरी साड़ी भी उसी की थी.
Okay, so I thought before I draw on my memories of Mama, I would like to list a few adjectives which I think describes him and his personality. So I like to break down, we all know him as Princey Mama. So I like to break down those personalities as Princey. So P for passionate, persuasive, and persistence. R for reliability, resolute and determined, always. I for inspirational, impressive, and influential. N for nice and gorgeous, which he was, always. C for considerate, charismatic, clever, courageous, and challenging. Challenging always, everyone. And Y for youthful and always young at heart. So that's how we always would like to remember it. Now, my first memories of Mama are probably, the clearer memories I have are probably from his awe-inspiring return from Russia, which at that time was USSR. And his massive collection of gadgets and other lots of interesting items he brought along with him. I still remembering him opening his suitcase and his cupboard, and we all as little, I was a little teenager then, standing and eagerly looking at the tape recorder, for instance. First time I saw the spools of recorded music. And he's the one who introduced me to Pete Seeger, Joan Baez. For the first time, although I had heard Beatles, for the first time I saw the album of Sgt. Pepper's Heart Club Band. Movie projector, he brought a movie projector, and interesting, he brought two of them. There was one of them which didn't require electricity or didn't require a motor as such, and all you needed was, it had a winding thing in it, so you wind and it would run for, let's say, 10 minutes or something with a bulb behind it. So, and I remember watching movies like Abbott and Costello and some of the other
war movies.
And war movies as well. So there was a number of collection he brought with him. And of course, his photo camera. I remember him, me looking at the Russian camera and taking photos. Often he would give it to me to take photos for different occasions. So that was certainly very interesting.
In fact, what I remember of my childhood was that he brought a lot of babushka dolls, and those were the first time that we'd actually seen babushka dolls. And he also got me a lot of folk tales, and they were fairy tales from Russia. Who could imagine that Russia had such fascinating fairy tales? They were very imaginary. There were dragons, there were fairies, and I think they were really the older version of Harry Potter. So really that was my first memory of reading fairy tales, which were all derived from Russian fairy tales. Basically that was our first exposure, at least for me as a child, first exposure not only to Russia but Europe. India was a very closed economy and people used to hardly travel. So it was a different world for us, and that was Mama's first, his experiences in Russia and Europe gave us a completely different insight into Russia and Europe. So that was the best, one of the few recollections that I have of my childhood.
I also remember some of those overcoats,
Yes.
which were always very interesting at that time for us.
Along with his collection of records, Vivek Dada just mentioned, his record collection was so huge and large, and that was our first introduction to Pete Seeger, to Joan Baez. The other day I was watching a movie on Netflix, and one of the Pete Seeger songs, Vantaramera, Ragira Vantaramera came up, and I started singing, and the girls, Rim Jim, said, Ramita, they sing, Mom, how do you know this song? And I said, this is a part of my household, growing up in Mama household, that I was exposed to all this music at a very young age. So,
and as I mentioned earlier, he was always an awe-inspiring and a trendsetter in the family. For instance, he was the first one in the family to select a bride of his own choice. That initial reluctance turned into pride, and obviously it's all history now. Okay, now we also have some memories of his wedding.
Yeah.
So.
One of the very few people will know of, except for close family, which was there at that time. I still remember weeks and weeks those bandwalas will come to Mama's house. Mama will play those records, and they would practice in his house because they had never played those songs before. So that was a real highlight for me as a part of the growing up.
और उस समय शायद बैंड वालों को कम सितंबर की ट्यून ही आती थी, so which they must have repeated at least 3 or 4 times. But then another interesting event after that was the reception. I remember again SDA में, Southern Development Area में जो park था, there was a canopy laid out, and but there was a live Shanai wala. A Shanai performance was there. And I remember very clearly, I was given instructions and a list of music to be played when certain VIP guests came. And one of them was, I remember very, very well, Niratsi Chaudhary. I mean, you may know, may have heard of the gentleman. He's world renowned. So at his entry, I was given a list of Western music to be played. So I made sure record pe laga ke us samay, as he's entering, that music is played. I also remember he got a Bengali cook from to prepare certain non-vegetarian dishes for guests, for certain guests. Ek alag se buffet laga tha jahan non-vegetarian tha. But he cared about everyone, and that showed in that reception. Showed so well. Interestingly, Mama and I, we only have a 17-year difference, which is similar to what Rahul and I have. And with that age difference, he was the youngest senior member of the family. And incidentally, I was also working at a Ashok Hotel, so jab bhi beech mein break hota tha, I would drive down and occasionally go to JNU and spend my break time there. And perhaps he was the only family member at that time. Aajkal to the trend has changed. The only family member who would proudly introduce me to all his JNU colleagues as chef. Ye chef hai, bahut bada chef hai Ashoka ka. So he was the only one who was proud of me, of that profession which I had at that time. 89 when we migrated to Australia, I kind of moved away, but JNU always remained a place of arrival and departure to India. So hum jabhi bhi Delhi jaate the, that'll be the first place we'll go, and jate samay, that'll be the place we return from.
In fact, JNU, invites a lot of my memories. I won't say childhood, but very formative years of my life were spent in JNU. And I remember the heated debates that used to take place, be it politics, be it economics, be it sports, be it anything.
Or be it family.
Yeah, be it family, yes. There were always, Mama always had an opinion, and he always, loved in engaging in those debates. And that actually became a part of my growing up, where we learned all these things. I learned how to debate. I learned how to have an opinion while at the time when I was growing up. So that was all a part of JNU. And as Vivek Dada said, once mummy moved away, mum and dad moved away to Sydney, Vivek Dada moved away. For all these years, I have been a de facto daughter for Mama Mami. So once they moved away, this was my only family. And all I can say is that till now, I not only have the pleasure of having that relationship, but also the fact that I have the privilege of scolding Rahul and bossing around him, just as I could do, because Mama Mami always treated me like a daughter. And I must say that my kids have had the same pleasure, because while we were still in India, I used to travel a lot, and Rimjim and Ramita used to stay in JNU for weeks altogether. So they've grown up with their Mama Mami. So my memories of Mama are, they're so vast and so long that it's hard for me to put them in a nutshell. So I may have blabbered on for a bit longer, but that's because it's hard for me to condense it into a small time and express what I've experienced as a child.
I think in conclusion, we'd like to say 2011 when he visited Sydney, once again we experienced a young mama. So he having his illness having started already, he would be too eager and anxious to join us even on the smallest trips. हमें किसी को स्टेशन जाना है पिक करने के लिए, so immediately he'll get into the car, मैं भी चल रहा हूँ, or going to the shopping center to grab something, he'll say मैं भी चल रहा हूँ. So he was always very keen, or even to have a drink, which was restricted at that time, but he wanted to have a small one and he wanted to enjoy that with us. Or getting Mami to prepare brownies, which were a favorite of Tinku, and getting her to prepare it. Piche lage, nahi, banao. So yeah, we remember all these parts of Mama as a young Mama, and that is, I think, what he's instilled in us is basically the values and the traditions and the travel of, and then the love of travel.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of travel, our love of travel has come from what he shared coming back from Europe and Russia.
And our love for assimilating with different cultures all comes from Mama, and the way we've seen him grow up, where we assimilated different cultures and different backgrounds, and those are the values that I think we imbibed from Mama, and we are hoping to pass that on to our younger generation. So there's a legacy that he will keep in our family. Thank you, Rahul, for giving us this opportunity.
And sorry for taking too much time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vivek Dada. Thank you so much, Ritu Didi. There are many memories that came up as you both talked. That was really beautiful.